with Denzel.
Welcome in. I hope you all are having a wonderful day today. I hope your day has been going just as fabulous as mine has. Okay? I haven't done too much of nothing. I worked, of course, and I worked on my project. So that was mainly it. I worked on my project. And you know what? So I'm almost done. Like, I have a 3-stage situation with this project that I'm working on. And so I'm like halfway through the 2nd stage. And I spent all day yesterday working on like these 2 specific pieces because I have to get these like measurements right. And it's just so frustrating. Anyway, so I finally figure out which one a good size. And tell me why this morning, or when I was looking for it, I could not find that part. Luckily, I had the measurements. So, but I was so frustrated. And then after I sat back and I did like 2 videos, then I was like, oh, you ever had that moment where you're like, oh, I know where it's at. And then it was right there. So, yeah. And I'll let you guys know what I'm working on. It's going to be groundbreaking, wonderful, and it will be something that is for use. If nothing else, it's going to be for use, at least for my use. So I wanted to come in because I wanted to do, try to get some videos out because I'm going to be trying to finish up on this thing and I want to get that done. So I have a couple videos that I am going to be posting, but yeah, they're all pre-records. Yes. So I want to talk about a couple things. And the first thing that I would like to share with you guys, I want to show you guys, is what's going on over in France. I did show you, did I show y'all that? I think I might have mentioned, I know I have done videos about like the protests that's going on, because we do need to stay aware of what's going on in the world, because our American media is not showing it. And these people are cutting up around the world, and for a good reason. And go back to my last video. I'll tell you all about it. So we're going to take a look at, thank you again for tuning in, all my new people, my almost old people. Appreciate you for coming back. All right. So let's see here. You're welcome. So let's see here. Okay, so we're going to go here and we're going to do this video.
France descending into deeper political gridlock. The country's 5th Prime Minister in 2 years, quitting less than a month into his tenure. He is citing irreconcilable differences.
There are a lot of red lines in the mouths of many, at least some, not everybody. There are rarely green lines. However, the very principle of building a compromise between political parties is to be able to combine green lines and take into account a certain number of red lines. But we cannot be at both extremes.
Well, Sébastien Lecornu's shock resignation.
Now, the man has a point. Everybody can't be extreme. And I don't know where we're at, because I'm not about to do a political rant. But I just don't know where we're at, where it's either you are extremely left or extremely right. Like, what about us in the middle who we both believe in both sides in a sense, right? Like, I'm not an extremely conservative person, but they do have views that I agree with. I'm not an extremely leftist person, but they have some views that I do agree with. Not everything. Now, the whole racism part, no, I don't agree with that at all. But there are certain things that I don't agree with. One basic thing is using restrooms. I feel like if you have a penis, then you should use a male's restroom. If you have a vagina, then you should use a female's restroom. So if a male has surgery and has a penis, then he should go into the females' restroom. And then we have family restrooms, and then they should have another restroom that it doesn't have to be, it could just be a binarial, where if you're a man or a woman, or if you just don't identify. Because some people, they don't identify as male or female. They identify as different things, right? Like it's 200-300 different ways you can identify yourself now. So it's a lot of people that identify themselves in different ways where they don't want to be categorized as they see male bathroom, female bathroom. What if I don't identify as either one of those? Like, what if you have American bathroom, French bathroom? What if I'm German? You get what I'm saying? So we just got to be mindful. Everybody has a heart.
Coming just hours after unveiling his new cabinet. His ministers were supposed to convene.
Ain't that something? You just introduce your new employees and you quit.
For the first time today. Instead, it is back to square one for a government that has been essentially spinning its wheels for over a year now, putting President Emmanuel Macron in an even tougher spot than he was before. CNN's Melissa Bell back with us this hour. And Melissa, Lecornu, officially France's shortest ever serving Prime Minister. What happened and just what are...
At least he set a record.
The consequences here?
All kinds of...
Is it me or do they look alike? It's like they both go to the same Botox doctor. Look at your phone. Hold on, I'm gonna wait. You looking? Hurry up. You see? Take a look. Don't they look like they go to the same Botox doctor? All right.
Consequences in the immediate future for France's 2026 budget. The timetable by which this budget needed to be presented to Parliament, which was by mid-October, just a week away now, means that however quickly, and if the French president decides to nominate a new prime minister, he simply won't have time to organise around himself a government, present and draw up a new budget in time. So that's looking extremely unlikely at this stage. It doesn't look like they will get before Parliament in time the proposals for a 2026 budget. Remember, in the context where, Becky, it was extremely urgent that budget reform was pushed through, that budget cuts were made because of this growing debt crisis that France faces. So that's one first very important consequence to come out of this.
Keep in mind, their growing debt crisis. We'll get back to it. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you. You know, that's part of the FAT Act. We are researching, learning, and researching.
The other is, of course, that, as you say, after just 27 days, this hope that this particular Prime Minister, a very close ally of President Macron, but also someone who's considered relatively consensual, able, it was thought, to cobble together a government by drawing on the mainstream left and right in order to try and govern and draw up that proposed budget. The fact that he's failed does lead to questions about what can happen next. He's the fourth politician drawn from the political centre here in France to try and fail to do that, which suggests that at this stage, although technically he could, constitutionally he could, it's very unlikely that politically Emmanuel Macron might choose once again to try this tried and failed attempt to lead from the centre with a centrist PM rather. The only other choices available to him would be to choose, say, a prime minister drawn from the far right with all the difficulties that would have in getting consensus on the left, or a prime minister drawn from the left with all the difficulties you'd have in drawing consensus from the right, and especially given that this latest scalp to be claimed by France's instability went this time not because he lost the vote of confidence, but the very cabinet ministers you'd appointed 12 hours ago, many of them extremely disgruntled on the traditional right by the fact that not enough of them got seats. So there's now this rupture between President Macron's centre and the traditional right, and that makes it very difficult to see how naming a new prime minister would help. The other solution, Becky, would be yet another dissolution, a second one in as many years, with the danger that at this stage, the polls suggest that Marine Le Pen's far-right party would do even better this time than it did in 2024, with, of course, repercussions then for President Macron's majority and also his ability to lead. What he said is that he will stay on now until the presidential election of 2027, whatever else happens, Becky.
France, of course, suffering a ratings downgrade some weeks ago, earlier this year. The market's under pressure on the back of the Prime Minister's departure, and we're just going to show the CAC 40, the stock market, and how it closed down just less than 1.5% today. We're not seeing a rout. One expert suggesting the worst case scenario for France's financial markets would be a Macron resignation. Assuming that he does survive, what are the ramifications for the French president and for France at this stage?
Well, on the question of a particular resignation of the French president, it's extremely unlikely. The far left have been calling for some time for his impeachment, which works slightly differently to the way it works in the United States. Very difficult procedure for them to put through Parliament. Essentially, it has to be his decision because that procedure is so difficult to go. And again, this is not speaking in the wake of this particular resignation, but the last one, François Bayrou. He said, "Look, I'm staying whatever's happening." The chorus of people calling for his resignation has certainly been growing, but he seems determined to stay. So again, we go back to his options, either dissolution or naming a new prime minister. There are growing calls that dissolution is the only option left open to him, with the prospects of the far right looking better than ever. And the danger, of course, at this stage is, as you mentioned, alluded to in your question just then, Becky, that as this political gridlock continues, which it is likely to as long as he's president, there's simply no way around that. It's very difficult to see an alternative.
Is that not selfish that you would allow your country to go through all this dismantling and disarray, and all you could do is just step down? Like, the people are absolutely frustrated with you, and I'd rather see this burn down.
To a sort of lame duck presidency with a lot of political instability until the presidential election of 2027, should he decide to stay as he's pledged to so far. What that means is that the French debt, which has now reached about 116% of economic annual output, will not be resolved in terms of the fact that there will be no budget pushed through, because that would take tough political choices. It would take a big majority. It would take political will. There's none of that here in France right now. And that means that that's set to stay. Hence, what you saw today, further difficulty on the CAC 40 as a result of this latest resignation. It simply does not look good for France's ability to tackle this, Becky.
Yeah, y'all see that, right? Y'all see how how France is going through it? How they are going through it. So, yeah, I mean, to be honest, the PM, he immediately faced no confidence votes when he came in from both parties, right? The government, without certainty, to be honest, was going to be toppling within days. So it was a setup. He, like he said in the video, basically the conditions were not fulfilled because, he couldn't govern because there's no bipartisanship is what he was basically saying. So he, I'm going to step down rather than fight these people. And I'm not about to fight a whole parliament. It's just me. The president ain't got my back. He don't have my back at all. And I want to say that a lot of people are saying that France is falling. I guess the chaos makes it look, because it's like several pressures that are hitting them all at once, right? You got the political stuff, you got the public finances, and don't nobody like to, you don't be wanting your bills out there, right? So it's just nonstop, right? Like it's constant with them. You got the government paralyzed in a sense. Like after the snap elections, they had the no block holds, a majority in the National Assembly. That had like the gridlock that produced a whiplash cabinet that collapsed almost immediately. So, with the new prime minister stepping down and I don't know, man. The country just kind of just left in the caretaker mode while the parties try to figure it out, child, try to stitch it together, try to get it together, because they ain't got nothing going on over there. I've been to Paris before, and It was dirty when I went. No, nothing against the Paris people. Love you, bonjour. But it was just too many pigeons for me, and it was dirty. I did, and then they drive crazy. Well, let me not say that. They don't drive crazy. It's different how they drive, so you adapt to it or whatnot. And I remember my ex-husband and I, when we went and like we parked, here, and when we came back, the car was like at the opposite end. You get what I'm saying? Because they bumped the cars to spit, to fit, because they be having like those little small cars, so they'll bump the cars. And so, yeah, so your car will get bumped. I know, right? That's crazy. Another thing that they got going on over there is they have all those big protests. They have become a feature. And not a bug. Pension reform demonstrations that happened back in 2023. Then they had more unrest over political and social injustice, which periodically, of course, paralyzed the city, because I don't believe they're in a movement now. I think they've been like no movement for the past 2 weeks. So, yeah, take a look at that. It doesn't help with the whole budget stress, because you see what the lady was just saying. I believe France's deficit blew out, promoting the SP downgrade in the EU security, or the little scrutiny thing that they have. I'm not really into stocks. I have a few, nothing major. You know what I mean? But yeah. So that makes every new spending cut or tax hike politically explosive and harder to pass through a huge parliament, because, what? And then you have the contentious laws. You got the immigration, the policing, the pensions. They always have something going on between the courts, parliament, the streets. I mean, it's just a mess over there. They just keep getting deeper and deeper into it. At the end of the day, France is still a major wealthy economy. However, because what do they have? They have a little industry. They have some tech. They have energy, and people do love the culture, so people do go over there. Now I don't know about now, because with all this that's going on, but and you know what to think about with the energy part? They were getting their energy from Africa, and they lost a lot of their. They lost 3 or 4 of their countries. I think they still have one. What country they still have? They still have a country over there. I can't think of it right now. It'll come to me. But yeah, they still have. So they lost those countries. So I don't know about the energy part anymore, because I think I saw something where it was saying if France was making like 18 billion off of the uranium, they were only giving Burkina Faso, for instance, like $1 billion. So now Burkina Faso is keeping all that money. So they're going to be going to war with them. Well, they're trying to kill it. They're trying to get rid of the leader right now. I mean, I hope he makes it. So yeah, I want to say that just speaking on France and France losing its influence and basing over there in Africa, that has put a real dent in its global cloud. I mean, it hurt a few of the strategic industries that it had, like I said, mainly in energy. Well, not mainly in energy, but energy and technology. Those minerals are something else. And it's shaky over there. It's really shaky. It's really shaky over there. They lost their military reach and presence, because it was Mali, Burkina Faso, and Algeria. They forced the French troops out, and then they strapped any defense deals with them. Then Paris ended its Sahel missions and left Niger. That was the last big footprint under pressure, and that ended a decade plus in which France had cast itself in the region as a security guardian, in a sense, right? Then you have the whole uranium because Nigeria revoked, what company was that? Oran? I think it was Oran was the name. They revoked their license. And so and I believe they were one of the world's largest untapped uranium deposits in a location that they were drilling at. So that directly hit the French state Lincoln Company because they were they were connected to France. They are a French company. And that raised questions about the future supply diversity for France's nuclear sector. So even if France's current fuel mix is diversified, that's still a big hit that they took, right? So with the Sahel cooperation collapsing, the EU missions booted and are closed because they got rid of them, which I don't blame them. They should have, right? Europe, France, they lost partners on border control, counter-terror work, which there is no counter-terror work when you are creating a terror and then you are sending people to fight your own people. You get how twisted you are in the mind to just, some people just have nothing else better to do, right? But it's all about controlling, right? So I think they were trying to say that this was trying to help with migration management and all this other stuff. But matter of fact, I think that is what they were saying, that, with that, it was the migration management. They needed to have security out there to issue the plans and stuff. But yeah, all this stuff is gone. All that's gone. And then it didn't help. What else happened over there? Something happened. Oh, when Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, they built a tight block with each other, and they did the alliance of the Sahel states. And then they moved toward a confederation which distanced themselves from the ECOWAS and welcomed Russia, North Korea, and China. And for Paris, this was a visible loss of influence because what I need y'all for? Y'all friends. All three of these countries can, how like having you three big brothers, you the little sister, but you're not the little sister. You the big sister, but you need the, But anyway, so yeah, and then, they have the French ambassadors and the reoccurring anti-French protests that was going on. So, yeah, I just, I think that it was just time for them to go. I really do. I kind of went on about that. I know, right? I do. I kind of went on about that. But, yeah, I was gonna keep talking about it, but I'm gonna leave it alone because I was about to get to talking about how Mali kicked them out in 2022, and Burkina kicked them out in 2023, and then Niger followed in 2023, and let me see here. They left the car. That's Central African Republic. They left there in 2022. Then they have one base left. Or the last base that they had was in Chad, which was in January this year. And then I think the remaining places that they have now is Senegal and the Ivory Coast. Because, the Ivory Coast is where the guy who had killed Shakur, I can't think of his name, but it's like Thomas Shakur, I believe. But yeah, he killed him. He was like his best friend, and he has been he's been over in the Ivory Coast since then, because of course they paid him, so that's why he went there. So yeah. Yeah. So, and then they also have over in Djibouti, because they have an army base over in Djibouti, a navy base over in Djibouti, and so they have a permanent base over there in Djibouti, and then I think they are winding down in Gabon. So, yeah, I think they winding down over there, but because France still has economic security and diplomatic ties, like I say, with the energy and the mining contracts and all that, that's why they really can't leave Africa alone. They need them. They keep, but the key point is sovereignty, right? Where governments demand an exit, France, they did leave. often under pressure and not, like on schedule. So this is why they are losing influence and bases, because the people don't trust them and they don't want the recolonization. We don't even want you guys to come over here on we buddy, and then you get over here and you get with that BS. You get what I'm saying? Because now I'm going to feel some type of way. And now, who trying to go back through that again? Oh, how long have I been here? Okay, my bad. All right, so let me move on to the next topic real quick. Okay, so let's talk about, since we already over here in Africa, let's go to Madagascar.
Madagascar's president has dismissed his government, saying he was responding to the demands of protesters that have spread around the country since last week. The mostly young demonstrators have been calling for better access to basics like water and electricity. At least 22 people have died in clashes with police.
Demonstrations demanding change have swept across Madagascar. Thousands of mainly young protesters began taking to the streets on Thursday. They have a clear message to President André Rajoelina, who first came to power following a coup sparked by an uprising.
They say we are a TikTok generation, a generation of idiots. And when we rise up, they don't let us speak out about the country's problems. A message for you, Mr. André Rajoelina. When you led the protest, they let you do it. It was okay. But when we young people fight for the country, you stop us.
Authorities have responded with force to the protests, using tear gas and reports of beatings and mass detentions. The unrest has escalated to arson and looting in some areas. Many protesters want better access to water and electricity in Madagascar. The island nation off Africa's east coast is among the world's poorest countries and faces high levels of poverty. Some conditions have worsened since Rajoelina took office in 2019. Amid calls for his resignation, he said he had listened to demands and fired his entire government on Monday.
Therefore, in accordance with Article 54 of the Constitution, I have today taken the decision to dismiss the Prime Minister and dissolve his government.
But the move does not appear to have satisfied protesters who've called for fresh demonstrations. UN Human Rights Commissioner Volker Turk has urged authorities to respect freedom of expression and the right to peaceful assembly. The UN reports killings and more than 100 injuries in protests so far, a tally that Madagascar's government rejects.
Let's now bring in Raisa.
The people are asking for basics, right? Basics. Nothing major. Basics. Water and electricity. You see how us in America, we go through it. Everybody goes through it. But everybody goes through it. We can't even compare. Everybody goes through it because we got our messed up stuff. Now, and matter of fact, the messed up stuff gonna be the last thing that I talk about. Okay, so here go the next thing. Listen, if you still here, look, let me give you applause. I don't know where I was going when we was going where I was going. Where Fifi? My dog just be coming over here looking at me. She let Frenchie. She just be getting on my nerves. Listen, my dogs don't like noise. And I didn't realize that I had bougie kind of dogs because I'm far from bougie, if you can't tell by the way I talk. And where I live at, it's pretty quiet. I mean, like literally, I barely hear any noise. I don't hear nothing. And I'm just in a good spot, right? And because I live in Houston. So I'm in Houston. I'm in the 610, which means that I'm not like, it ain't no, I'm in a, look, I have neighbors, right? But I don't hear anything. My dogs hear any noise and they get to barking. I'm talking about a truck pass by and, it might go and, and you hear like the racks or something jump. They barking. I went out of town, and I was gone for an extended period of time. Like, I don't know, I think it was like 5 or 7 days. And I had my dog, my bigger dog, my bully, my American bully, I had her with my friend. He has, quite a few dogs because he got he has a house, a dog house or whatnot. And so he has quite a few dogs. And those dogs, they always be fighting, they're aggressive, and they dogs, right? He a guy, so you know how guys be with their dogs, right? And so when I got my dog back, when she came home, first off, when I pulled up and I went, because I was like, I was going to record her coming out because I wanted to get all that. So I go, and he goes to open up the door and to go and get her, out the house or whatnot. And when I tell you that thing, by the time I opened up the door, she had already came out and just I opened up the door, then I go to catch her on the video. She was already like, man, let's go. I'm talking about something. She hadn't already jumped in the car. She was like, what you waiting on? And it was so funny. I couldn't do nothing but laugh. He laughed. It was funny because it was like she came out, because of course she's not just about to just break off running or nothing, but she came out, and then as soon as she seen me, she just ran, jumped in the car. It was like, no more. And so I want to say, when she got home, she didn't bark. I'm talking about, it could be any noise. She did not bark at all. Because them dogs, he got like 6 or 7 dogs over there, and they be in cages, and he let them out, then they be fighting and all this other stuff. She came back with a couple of scratches, But, yeah. So anyway, so let me go ahead on and do this here, because I be rambling. But you could share, like, and subscribe. I'm just, listen, a beg is a beg, okay? Okay? It's just a beg. That's it. I ain't borrowing. I ain't asking for no money. I'm just saying, like the video. You can subscribe. It's free. Dang. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm getting back to the job. All right. So let's go on up here matter of fact, we're going to come to North America, go on up there to the United States, go to Illinois, pinpoint to Chicago. And then we're going to go over to Somalia.
And it's certainly not about immigration. This was about a show of authoritarianism. ICE agents chased people outside of a homeless shelter on the south side and then caused a car accident on the west side. Immigration agents put a young black man in a chokehold on the side of the street in East Garfield Park. We have a rogue, reckless group of heavily armed mass individuals roaming throughout our city that are not accountable to the people of Chicago. Their actions put all Chicagoans at risk. We need ICE out of our city. Today, we are signing an executive order aimed at reining in this out-of-control administration. The order establishes ICE-free zones.
Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson signed an executive order aimed at limiting where federal agents can gather in the city. This order will prohibit them from using certain city-owned spaces for immigration enforcement activities. The order, which is set to take effect immediately, will prohibit federal immigration authorities from using city-owned or controlled parking lots, vacant lots, and garages as staging areas, processing locations, or operation spaces for civil immigration enforcement activities, it states.
We are here today to talk about the events that have transpired over the past week. Past week revealed the true face of the administration's immigration enforcement in our city, and the entire world was able to witness that. On Tuesday, federal immigration agents raided an apartment building in the South Shore community in the middle of the night. This building was managed by a slumlord that people have all been clear about. The city actually sued the owner in February over 15 building code violations. The residents were dealing with deplorable conditions already. This was before ICE trampled them. But when they came in the middle of the night, they terrorized the families that were living there. There were children who were without clothing.
I wonder if the family can sue. They should be able to sue, right? I mean, I'm not an attorney. I should have been. I'm not an attorney. But shouldn't the family be able to sue? Let me know.
Zip tied, taken outside at 3 o'clock in the morning. A senior resident, an American citizen, with no warrants, was taken outside and handcuffed for 3 hours. Doors were blown off their hinges, walls were broken through, immigration agents coming from Black Hawk helicopters to set up snipers on nearby buildings. This is America. One resident described the situation plainly. I quote, "They had immigrants in one van and black people in another van." This raid wasn't about public safety. It was about and it's certainly not about immigration. This was about a show of authoritarianism, a forceful display of tyranny. They sent a clear message to all Chicagoans. They said, "We do not respect your rights. We can do anything we want and we will film it and put it on social media."
I wonder if any other states are gonna follow their lead.
The very next day, ICE agents chased people outside of a homeless shelter on the south side and then caused a car accident on the west side. Immigration agents put a young black man in a chokehold on the side of the street in East Garfield Park. Witnesses, one of which you will hear from this morning, bravely filmed the interaction, eventually leading to this person's release. On Friday, agents dispersed tear gas in the middle of a busy city street. Chicagoans were hit with chemical agents while walking their children home from school. A couple ran from tear gas with a 2-year-old child in their care. Agents went into the Humboldt Park Health Center and detained a sitting elected official, Alder Jessie Fuentes, of the 26th Ward, because she simply requested to see a warrant. On Saturday, they escalated even further by shooting a U.S. citizen. They claimed it was defensive fire. But frankly, we cannot trust anything that comes out of the administration. It was only a few short weeks ago that they claimed officers were severely injured in the killing of Mr. Villegas Gonzalez in Franklin Park. A Sun-Times investigation found that the agent said on a body camera footage that it was, in fact, nothing major. We have a rogue, reckless group of heavily armed masked individuals roaming throughout our city that are not accountable to the people of Chicago. Their actions put all Chicagoans at risk.
That is absolutely crazy. That is absolutely crazy. That is absolutely crazy. So the last thing that I want to show you guys, because it's at 39 minutes, almost 38. And I want to show you, well, I might have time to show you this thing that Nixon had talked about. But, yeah, let me, I don't know if I want to talk about that. Okay, so let me show you this, and then we're going to end it with this.
Horrifically, the parents gave us full access and permission to talk to the children and show their faces because they say they cannot change the practice themselves. CNN's Anna Corin reports.
In this arid, desolate landscape, not a scrap of vegetation in sight, lies a makeshift camp for some of Afghanistan's internally displaced. Among its residents, 9-year-old Parwana. Her bright pink dress squeals of laughter and childhood games. A ruse to the horrors unfolding in this unhospitable environment. Parwana's family moved to this camp in Baghdis province 4 years ago after her father lost his job. Humanitarian aid and menial work, earning $3 a day, providing the basic staples to survive. But since the Taliban takeover 2.5 months ago, any money or assistance has dried up. And with 8 mouths to feed, Parwana's father is now doing the unthinkable. I have no work, no money, no food. I have to sell my daughter, he says. I have no other choice. Parwana, who...
But here's my thing. So you sell your daughter. You get some money for her. How long that money gonna last? And then what you selling next? Your wife? And then what's that money going? Then what you selling? Your ass? You should start with your ass first then, right?
who dreams of going to school and becoming a teacher, applies makeup. A favourite pastime for little girls, but Pawana knows she is preparing for what awaits her. My father has sold me because we don't have bread, rice and flour. He has sold me to an old man. The white-bearded man who claims he's 55 years old comes to collect her. He's bought Pawana for 200,000 Afghanis, just over $2,000 US. Covered up, Pawana whimpers as her mother holds her. This is your bride, please take care of her, says Pawana's father. Of course I will take care of her, replies the man. His large hands grab her small frame. Pawana tries to pull away. As he carries her only bag of belongings, she again resists, digging her heels into the dirt. But it's futile. The fate of this small, helpless child has been sealed.
That is absolutely heartbreaking.
Child marriage is nothing new in poor rural parts of Afghanistan. But human rights activists are reporting an increase in cases because of the economic and humanitarian crisis engulfing the country.
These are devastating decisions that no parent should ever have to make, and it really speaks to what an extraordinary breakdown is happening in Afghanistan right now.
For months, the UN has been warning of a catastrophe as Afghanistan, a war-ravaged, aid-dependent country, descends into a brutal winter. Billions of dollars in central bank assets were frozen after the Taliban swept to power in August. Banks are running out of money, wages haven't been paid for months, while food prices soar. According to the UN, more than half the population doesn't know where their next meal is coming from. And more than 3 million children under the age of 5 face acute malnutrition in the coming months.
People of Afghanistan need a lifeline.
And while $1 billion has been pledged by UN donors to help the Afghan people, less than half those funds have been received, as the international community holds off recognising the Taliban government.
People of Afghanistan will be dying of hunger in the next couple of months, and not just a few. This is just making people more and more vulnerable. And we cannot accept that.
Sentiments shared by the Taliban.
We are asking aid agencies to come back to Afghanistan and help these poor people. Otherwise, the crisis will worsen.
For this family in neighbouring Ghor province, they are trying to sell 2 daughters, 9-year-old Litan and 4-year-old Zeton, for $1,000 US each. Do you know why they're selling you? The journalist asks Zeton. Because we are a poor family and don't have any food to eat, she says. Are you scared? He asks. Yes, I am. Another family in Ghor province borrowed money from their 70-year-old neighbour. Now he's demanding it back, but they have nothing to give, except their 10-year-old daughter, Magul. My daughter doesn't want to go and is crying all the time. I am so ashamed, he says. Terrified, she threatens to take her life. If they push me to marry the old man, I will kill myself. I don't want to leave my parents.
That's so sad.
Days later, she discovers the sale has been finalised. Another Afghan child sold into a life of misery. Jake, it is just gut-wrenching knowing what these young girls will be subjected to. And just an update on young Magul, the last girl in our story there. She will be handed over to the 70-year-old man in the coming days. It's just a tragic fate that awaits this young girl. Now, if the aid situation is not addressed urgently, the UN projects, Jake, that by the middle of next year, 97% of Afghans will be living below the poverty line, not meaning that hunger and starvation will be facing these people alone, but that other girls will end up like Magul and Pawana. Jake.
Yeah, this is such a horrible story. It's so tough to watch. You know that this happened, this tradition, this awful thing was predated the Taliban taking over again. But how has the Taliban takeover in Afghanistan earlier this year made it worse? How has it exacerbated this problem of families selling their daughters?
So, absolutely, you're absolutely right. This has been around for forever. However, from the local journalists that we've been speaking to and working with, they say that once upon a time it was behind closed doors. Now it is out in the open. The international community is obviously refusing to recognise the Taliban as the official government, and as a result, they are freezing billions of dollars in reserves that would, otherwise go to the people of Afghanistan. They're doing this to try and hold the Taliban to account, especially on their record regarding human rights of women and of young girls. But by punishing the Taliban, it means that money is not getting to Afghans most vulnerable, which obviously includes the girls in our piece, Jake.
really tough to watch. Anna Coren, thank you so much for that important story.
Yeah, that's absolutely crazy. When do y'all think about that? Just sick, huh? Just a country full of perverts. Like, what is going on? But on that note, I've kept you guys here for 45 minutes and 15 seconds. So I would like to thank you guys for tuning in. Please click like, share, and subscribe, and jam your way on out of here. Thanks again.
I know that this is it. 'Cause I know that I'm giving you a love. A love that you can resist, baby.
Move over, Denzel.